Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, good day to you. Now it's depending where you are in the world. I'm here in London doing the nighttime devotion from the devotional Christ Triumphant. The title today, Noah had genuine faith. We can too. The scripture reading is taken from Genesis 7 verse 1. And the Lord said unto Noah, Come thou and all thy house into the ark. For thee have I seen righteous before me in this generation. Noah was commanded to build an ark for the saving of himself and his house. It is stated, Noah have I found righteous before me in this generation. And it's also stated that Noah walked with God. Noah did not stop to question, what will the inhabitants of the old world think of me if I begin to build this boat upon dry land? He believed just what God had told him. He commenced to work upon the light and plan that God had given him. He had to employ many carpenters to help him in the great work of the building, and there were many of these who were believers at that time. But the largest part of the Noachic world were unbelievers, and they made a great deal of sport of Noah. They ridiculed the idea of building a great boat on dry land. The surface of the earth was very much as it was when God created it, although some changes had taken place. They looked at the lofty trees and the wonderful things that God had made in nature, and they said, It is impossible that God shall destroy these things. The sight of their eyes and their senses made a greater impression upon the inhabitants of the Noachic world than the message from heaven. And Noah stood there in his faithful integrity as a witness to that generation. Abel, Enoch, and Noah were representative men in that age to the inhabitants of the old world. Everyone had had their test upon the law of God. Would they obey God? Would they do just as he told them to do? Or would they disobey and realize the results? If Noah had been like many in our day who say, believe, believe, all you have to do is believe, then he would not have condemned the world. But Noah had that genuine faith that works. He testified by his faith and works to the inhabitants of that Noachic world that he believed God. Had he stood back and said, I cannot build this ark, why? I will be considered crazy if I build this ark on dry land. Then he would have had no influence for good upon them. But he believed just what God had said and carried it out by his works. They considered him insane. They laughed at him, mocked him, but still he kept at the work, building the ark according to God's directions. When the last message of Noah was given to that degenerate age, as he stood before the people giving his warning, they turned from him to ridicule him. They had listened to the prayers of Noah that had ascended day after day on their behalf, and with his heart drawn out for them, he delivered his very last message to them. So the title, Noah had genuine faith. and we can too. So essentially what it's saying is, what we need to understand, in those days, they had never seen rain. Something we take for granted. It had never rained on the earth at that time. It never needed to rain. So when Noah was building a boat, it wasn't on the sea, which was already there. And as we would build boats, in even our time now, we'd build it in the harbour or by the edge of the sea, wouldn't we? But Noah built the boat right in the middle of dry land. And then when he also said that it was going to rain, they ridiculed him. But we haven't even got to that part yet. They ridiculed him just because he was building the boat in dry land. And so big and huge. And then he was preaching for so long. And he did it despite the fact he knew he would be ridiculed, mocked, made fun of, laughed at. And yet he still carried on because God said to do it. Noah had genuine faith. You and I, we can too.